This is Amanda from the 36th Legislative District Dems, and we are interviewing Janis White for the Seattle School Board. Janis, over to you for your introduction.
Thanks so much, Amanda. I'm Janis White, and I'm running for school board in District 5. I am a lawyer and a parent of 3, and I've been involved in our schools and at the level of the school district for close to 20 years. And after 20 years of watching the school board pretty intently, attending lots of school board meetings, testifying in front of the school board, as well as in the state legislature on a variety of education issues, I've kind of come to the conclusion that there are 3 qualities that I think make someone an effective school board director. One is having roots in the community, and I have those. I've lived in the Madrona neighborhood in central Seattle for 27 years. Second is having a direct connection and experience with our schools and with our district and how it's operated and how it's run. As I said, I have 3 kids. All 3 of my children attended Seattle Public Schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. They're now in their 20s, they're young adults. But we went all the way through the system with 3 kids. And during that time, I was involved both in their schools and at the district level. In fact, I got involved in a round of school closures even before my oldest son started kindergarten. I also served on the site council at TOPS K-8, including as president. I served on a district transportation task force as a parent representative, and I helped organize a citywide alternative schools coalition to advocate before the school board for policy to promote alternative education models around the city. I also have a child with a disability and became involved in the Seattle Special Education PTSA, including serving 2 years as president during COVID. And the last thing, because I'm about to run out of time, is I think a school board director needs to have a passion for public education and for making sure that we're providing the best education for students where they're at so that all of our students can meet their full potential.
Great, thank you so much. Our first question will be asked by Anita.
We would like to know more of your why and understand what uniquely qualifying experiences you bring to this role and how this informs how you will govern.
Great. So as a lawyer, the first thing I did when I started considering running for the school board is to look up the statute to see what the role of a school board director is. A lot of people think that school board directors are limited to writing and passing policy, supervising the superintendent and choosing a superintendent and approving the budget. But actually what the statute says, and this is exactly what the statute says, is that the school board, whether or not acting through its administrative staff, is accountable for the proper operation of the district. Now, that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that doesn't mean that the school board is supposed to roll up its sleeves and get involved in day-to-day management. But in order to make sure that their policies are actually being implemented as intended, the school board needs to be involved and understand how the district is being operated, because the school board is, by statute, accountable for the proper operation of the district. And so I think we need to have processes in place to enable the school board to fulfill that responsibility. As an attorney who's been practicing law for over 40 years, and I do trial work, one of my skills is that I know how to ask questions to uncover information that I need in order to make good decisions. I also, as an attorney, having practiced for over 40 years, I've been involved in a lot of cases that have involved complex financial issues. So I've had to learn how to analyze data and analyze financial disputes. And so that's another skill that I would bring to the work of the school board. I think that in order to be accountable for the proper operation of the school district, school board directors have to be in the community. That means visiting schools in their district regularly, meet with families and staff, and find out what's going well and what concerns they have, and meeting with community organizations that are involved with and working with youth.
Great, thank you. Our second question will also be asked by Anita.
Seattle Public Schools has set an ambitious goal to operate on 100% zero carbon electricity by 2027, as outlined in their clean energy resolution. While significant planning and initial steps have been undertaken, the district faces challenges in meeting this target. What steps will you take to meet the target?
Thank you for this question. It's a great question. And I did some research to be able to really answer it. That the Clean Energy Resolution was passed by the school board in 2021. And following the passage of that resolution, there was a task force that was set up that met for 13 months. And in March of 2023, the task force's report was attached as an information item to a school board meeting. And that task force report set out 80 action items with a timetable for being able to operationalize and meet the goals set in the Clean Energy Resolution. And I did a search on the district website, and my concern is, after doing that search, that I don't believe there's been any report to the school board since the Clean Energy Task Force report was attached as an information item in March 2023. I don't believe there's been any report to the school board about where we are in terms of implementing the 80 action items that were set forth in that plan. And so I think the first step is that the school board needs to hear from staff and from the district where we are with that plan. How many of the action items are we behind on? Why? What are the challenges? Before the board can then address what to do about those challenges. And I think that there should be at least an annual report to the school board reporting on progress. Since we put in the effort, we had a task force, including many people from the community who devoted, I'm sure, hundreds of hours to this work to develop a plan to meet the goals of the resolution. We really need to have that reporting mechanism incorporated so that the school board can then monitor and address whatever challenges may come up along the way.
Great, thank you. Our third question will be asked by Anita.
Seattle Public Schools are facing a budget crisis. What are practical and tangible steps you are taking to solve this?
So I think that the budget needs to be top priority for anyone running for the school board, because we've had budget deficits for each of the last 3 years, and they're not small deficits, as you know, they're large deficits. And we need to stop using one-time fixes to plug the holes in the budget, and we need to address what the structural issues are that are causing those deficits. So there are 3 things that I think need to happen right away. One is that a couple of years ago, the school board sunsetted its regular committee structure, and that included a finance and budget committee. And I think we need to reinstate that committee. When you're in a situation with repeating budget deficits year after year, you need to have a school board committee that is committed to doing the work of digging into the financial situation of the district and understanding it, so that the school board is equipped to make difficult decisions that may have to be made. Secondly, I think that either on that committee or as a separate advisory committee, but if it's on the committee, I think we need to have ex officio members from the community. And these would be community members who have financial expertise and time to review data, to help school board directors understand those financial issues, and also provide more transparency to the public and to voters about what is going on with the public schools and the school district's budget. And then the third issue that I think we need to bring back, this is something that used to happen and isn't happening now, is regular reporting from district staff to the school board by department. And that reporting would include by department what their budget is, what their staffing is, what their role is, how much they're actually spending, what outcomes they're getting for kids, and benchmarking how other nearby districts fulfill those roles and other similarly sized districts around the country fulfill those roles, so that we know whether or not we're spending our money smartly and spending the money that we have smartly.
Great, thank you. And our fourth question will also be asked by Anita.
We are existing in a time of a federal government hostile towards cities and counties like ours. A focus of this hostility has been public education, compounded by ongoing challenges at a state level. New initiatives are being filed to undermine civil rights in our schools. How do you anticipate navigating and leading when we face complex and dynamic challenges to our civil rights, laws, funding, and so on?
So this is an area where I think my experience as a lawyer would come in handy on the school board. So under the Trump administration, well, first of all, let's start off by saying that federal influence in education in general has typically been fairly limited. The Trump administration is trying to expand that, however, and so far their efforts have been focused in three main areas. One is that they want to dismantle the Department of Education. A second one is that they've been threatening to withhold federal funding from schools and school districts that are supporting DEI programming and transgender student rights. And the third area that they've been focusing on so far is what they call a return to common sense discipline policies. In addition to that, I would also say that they've talked about moving special education out of the Department of Education and into the Health and Human Services Department. And there's also been some issues with Medicaid funding, some of which does go towards funding services for children with disabilities in our public schools. So far, though, I will say that most of the efforts by the Trump administration in the education arena have been slowed down, at least, and held back through litigation. There have been a lot of injunctions entered that have prevented most of the efforts that they've tried to push through so far. And I think that litigation is going to continue to be a key tool. And I think that going forward, having someone like me on the school board, who's an experienced attorney, able to evaluate some of the litigation risks as they go forward, while at the same time making sure that we stay true to our values, but being honest with our community about what some of the impacts are going to be in our schools and in our budgeting as we have to do that and also protect student rights.
Great, thank you so much. That concludes our 4 initially prepared questions. And now we'll open it up to questions from folks here and from members that aren't attending. Anita, you have a question?
How soon would you want to notify parents of an event at school, such as guns or lockdowns?
So I have personal experience with this issue. I have 2 children who graduated from Garfield. I was a parent at Garfield for 8 years. And during those 8 years, I received many texts letting me know that there was a lockdown or a shelter in place or an issue in the neighborhood. And I think that it's important for parents to receive those in as close to real time as possible. I know that now there's a lot of, when my kids were in school, we didn't have the policies of having to hand over their cell phone when they walked into class. So actually, I usually was getting a text from one of my kids before I heard from the school. I'll also share that one of my kids graduated from Ingram, and he was right down the hall the day that the Ingram student was shot and killed. I did receive a text from him before I heard anything from.
Thank you. And I will we have a question from a member who is not able to be here tonight. I'm going to go ahead and post it in the chat as well. Somewhat related. In 2020, the school board enacted policy 4311, putting a moratorium on school resource officers, SROs, and promised alternatives to police in schools. Are you committed to upholding the moratorium on SROs and keeping the promise to invest in alternatives, such as restorative justice practices and violence interruption programs to keep students safe?
Not only am I committed to that, I testified to that effect to the school board last month. And I testified as a parent with 2 Garfield graduates and an Ingram graduate who was, as I said, right down the hall. And I'm particularly struck. I've been at the recent school board meetings where there have been presentations to the school board about the proposal to set up a pilot program at Garfield and bring back an armed officer on the Garfield campus. And what I've been particularly struck by is the fact that the principal has said that this past year was a marked decrease in incidents and many fewer episodes where they had to do a shelter in place because the district gave him 2 additional security officers, district security officers. They increased mental health support at the health center on campus, and they had an MOU with Passageways providing violence interruption in the building, and it's been effective. And so what I don't understand is what the justification is for this pilot program when the other strategies that we promised to kids when they, after the Ingram shooting, and they came forward and asked for additional mental health support in our schools. And we have an example at Garfield where we've been providing that additional support, and it's having an impact, and a very positive impact. And I do not understand where the impetus is coming from to add an SRO on top of that, as opposed to just expanding that effort and making sure that we continue with it.
Great. Thank you. I think that concludes our Q&A afterwards. So I'll take, we have another minute of time if you'd like to continue any of the answers that you didn't have a chance to finish, or add anything that we didn't cover that you'd like folks in the 36 to know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think I'll just add 2 more things. So the first is just, given my history and background in advocacy for kids with disabilities, I do want to say that I think that one of the things that motivates me to run for the school board is that I believe that we are way past time changing the way in which we approach the delivery of services and instruction to kids with disabilities. And we have far too many kids in Seattle Public Schools, particularly as the largest district in the state, who are in segregated classrooms, separated from their non-disabled peers. And there's decades of research showing that every student does better when we include kids with disabilities in general education. And we can do so much better at that here in Seattle. And we do have individual schools that are working on it and are getting great results. And what I want to do is systematize that and bring that out to more schools across the district.
Great. Thank you so much. This concludes our endorsement interview. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.